my beautiful, wonderful friends. How are you going? It is Tasty Tuesdays with Lorene Hughes from Crafting Possibilities. And today's incredible guest is I have Debbie Love. And she is my very first international guest. I'm so excited to have my very first international guest. She is all the way from good old Aotearoa, New Zealand, my home country. So she's always going to be higher up in my opinion anyway, because she's one of my fellow Kiwis. Welcome, Debbie. How are you today?
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on your show. I have listened to your show, so to actually be on it is just wonderful. Thank you.
So would you like to give us a little bit of a history on how you began, like what is sort of your background in your spiritual journey? How did that sort of come about for you? Have you always been in the spiritual field? Has it been something that you sort of stumbled into, or how's that happened for you?
Well, where do I start with that? I do actually know that I started my journey as a Palladian and that I spent some lives there, and then I spent some lives as a Syrian, and then I came to Earth. So you could say it started a long, long time ago, many, many lives ago. And I learned that about myself 10 years ago. So I guess 10 years ago in this lifetime is probably when I had my biggest reconnecting back into my spirituality. Like I always had it there when I was a kid. You know, I would say things like, and I'm talking about when I was like under 5, oh, Dad's going to be home in 2 minutes. And guess who'd drive up the driveway in 2 minutes' time? But it was really in the last 10 years that I've come back into it. And it was quite a spectacular story, really. On the 11th of the 11th, 2011, and I kid you not, yeah, I had been out with some girlfriends and I was married then. So when I got back home, my then husband was still up, and I got home at about 10:30 p.m. and we lived a street back from the beach. And I said, hey, have you heard everyone talking about this 11-11-11 thing? He's like, yeah, what are they on about? I was like, I've got no idea, but why don't we go and have some fun with it? So we went down to the beach and I took my little, I think it was an iPod back then, and I remember playing Pink's Let's Get the Party Started. So we've got these two people dancing on the beach, and this is just after 11. And then when it got to like 11:10, I was like, hey, let's go for a skinny dip. So at 11:11 p.m. on the 11th of the 11th, 2011, I am having this spiritual cleansing that I don't even realize it's what's going on. And it was like almost instantly from the next day, my life just started changing and it was game on. So, yeah.
I have so many tingles running up my body right now. This is just like, yes, please.
Yeah, totally didn't know it at the time, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Like when I really started on my spiritual journey, I had no idea that signing up to be a telephone counselor for Lifeline, just so that I could meet people and do some voluntary work, would lead me into a path of, you know, my spiritual journey, starting like with law of attraction and stuff like that. And then from there it was Ina Segal. And then, you know, it just continued on and on and on. But I had no idea at that point that just that one little choice would just blow up into this where I am today. And I'm so glad it did.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it? How much one choice can really take you in a new direction.
Yeah. It's so it's like so sorry, it's just like so many energies just went all at once. It's just wonderful. It reminds me of, or it inspires me to think of all the lovely people out there at the moment that are in that space right now, who there's a lot of them being where we were, where they are waking up, where they are sort of starting to get their spiritual legs. And it's just like, this feels really weird. And I don't really know why I'm now aware of all of these different things and all of these different elements. And now I'm seeing multiple numbers everywhere. And now I'm noticing feathers on the ground. And now I'm noticing weird stuff like whispers in my ears where I've never noticed whispers in my ears before. And, and now I don't really feel like I fit in with my friends anymore. Like, I think that was one of the big shifts for me. And I've done that a couple of times since I really began my spiritual journey. Hi, Holly. I'm doing really well. It's been a beautiful day. Well, sort of, here in Adelaide. It's actually been really drizzly here. But I went out to Morialta today with my beautiful partner. And we went for a walk up to the first falls, the bottom of the first falls, which was really nice. It was nice because hardly anybody was around. It was great. And what has Debbie done today? How are you?
What have I done today? Well, I was really excited today because there's been so much rain here that today I actually got to have laundry outside on the line and get it dry. So that was the sort of yay for me. While I was working from home. So I was so happy to see the sunshine. So happy to see the sunshine.
You must have had our lovely day from yesterday, because we had a big, beautiful day here yesterday, and I got these big drop sheets washed and dried, and the heavy ones for when you do renovation work. So yeah, it was lovely to get them dried out yesterday. So we must have gifted you some sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. Keep sending it over.
Well, it's back to rain again. So sorry, you're going to get rain tomorrow.
Oh.
I'm sure the ducks are loving it. So through your journey since 2011, have you formulated for you what consciousness means to you?
Yeah, so I guess for me, consciousness means being aware for me. And I often think about, well, I listen to a lot of audios and things, and I play a lot of things when I go to sleep at nighttime, and they play overnight. And I often think of consciousness quite often like when I wake up in the morning. When I first wake, it's silent. I'm not hearing anything. But then in about 1 or 2 seconds, I then start to hear the audio. And so that's like when I'm shifting, like my state of consciousness, and I've become aware of what's going on in my surroundings. So I always like to think of consciousness as my awareness, and what am I aware of, and am I aware of everything that's going on around me? Am I aware of what's really going on behind the veil, which interestingly is a concept that I was taught when I was a chartered accountant, and I used to look at it from that perspective more than a spiritual perspective, because we used to have to look behind the veil to really look at the truth of what was really going on with the transaction. And this is if you're wanting to try and detect, if there's thefts going on in the business or whatever it might be. So very interesting that I first learned that concept from a logical linear perspective, and then I just kind of transferred it into like my spiritual sense, like, oh yeah, I get that, I know what that means. So very interesting transition in that respect.
Yeah, absolutely. I hadn't really thought about it from that regard, but certainly being a chartered accountant, you would have seen and been exposed to all sorts of different dealings, both honourable and not.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many unhonourable, which is lovely, which is lovely. But if you can read numbers and you can look at the patterns of numbers, and I guess it's like with the patterns of words and frequencies and energies, you can pick things up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you should say that, because I was just talking with some friends the other day around, because you may or may not know, but I was trained as an architectural draftsman. And one of the reasons why I got out of the building industry was because the plans that were coming across my desk, bearing in mind I didn't really have a spiritual awareness of energy as such at this time, but I used to say that the plans coming across my desk no longer have heart in them. You can't feel the designer anymore. Whereas in the old days where you used the vellum and, the person was actually literally drawing with their hand, with the ink on the paper, on the vellum, even then, even if it was photocopied, you would still feel the heart of the designer. But as soon as it's all transferred over to computers and it's all done in graphics programs, that energy transfer is not happening anymore, because it was even down to, their lettering and stuff like that. So you could tell with a plan that came across your desk just by how they did their words and how they drew their lines, that this particular drawing or set of plans came from that particular designer. Now you have to look at the panel on the side and read who it's from. And to me, it didn't feel right anymore. It felt very dead, if you like. And it's only now, looking back at that time, that I realized that it was actually the energy I was aware of that was lost by transferring to computers. And I'm like, wow, how many other ways has that happened? How many other things in our world have we transferred over to technology and lost the energy transference, lost the heart of that, lost the consciousness, if you like, that communion between beings that was there before that no longer is, thanks to the technology.
So many things like that now. It's very transactional now.
I am Oh, Holly, you're getting a very special chat with us. You're like, you're getting us just about all to yourself right now. There'll be other people that come in, I'm sure. Got to remember, for Debbie, it's like 2.5 hours in the future for her. So it's like 9:45 at the moment. So she's doing us a big, huge favor by being here. And that's at night. And Amanda is from Adelaide. So there we go.
Woohoo!
I'm not sure where Holly's from. I'm sure, Holly, if you'd like to put it down in the chat, we'd love to hear. So on your lovely journey as how long have you been a chartered accountant for?
Oh, I don't know if I should tell you that. That might age me. I have been a chartered accountant for, let me see, since in the 90s. We'll put it that way. in the late 90s. Yeah.
So just 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. I started young, like when I was 12.
But you can take my thing of like the years 2000 to 2010 don't exist to me. Those years just don't exist. So when somebody says to me, the 90s, you just take whatever it is now and then minus 10 years and you get what I think in my head.
Oh, well, it just doesn't feel like it was that long ago. Like, honestly, where's the time gone? It's like...
So what are we, 2022? See, to me, the 90s is only, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, when you're talking late 90s, it's like 25 years ago.
Shh, no, don't bust my brain. That's not okay. Oh dear. Yeah. So I'd like to know, a little bit more about the spiritual side that you're into now. Like, obviously you've got your day job doing your chartered accountant stuff, and that, I imagine, maybe push the button sometimes, and, you know, try to flow through that world while still being a beautifully aware being. And how do you bring that in with your spiritual business? Like, what is your spiritual business? How has that developed over the years?
Yeah, so I am actually not working as a chartered accountant right now. So I was until late last year, and I was getting strongly encouraged to get the juicy, and I declined. And the encouragement just got so strong, and I was the only one in my team that hadn't had it, and all sorts of things were happening, and I was going to have a daily test to come on site every day. And I was just like, I'm not doing that. So I actually left. So I'm actually now full-time into my spiritual business. But there was a time, while I was doing the accountancy, and how I would bring it in is oftentimes, depending on the work that I'm doing, I'm like sitting there talking to my numbers. Like, I've worked for some large companies that have had big money coming in, like, you know, sales, 200 million. And so I'm looking at numbers and I'm like, thank you, numbers, what would it take for you to keep growing, et cetera, et cetera. And if I'm doing something for a particular person, or I'm signing something off for a particular project, I'm flowing energy to that. So I'm integrating silently, because I was aware that probably many of my colleagues would not get what I was doing at all. So I used to integrate it like that in terms of my work. And so that made it a little bit more interesting. And I guess during the last 10 years, which is when I particularly upped my game in my spiritual space, I have undertaken so many trainings and certifications, and I had clients during that time while I was doing the accountancy. And so now I was like, I think now is the time to actually step into doing this full time, because not really enjoying the matrix. And maybe now is the time for me to play with this energy a lot more than what I have been. So that is where my focus has been largely for this year. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying being in that space a lot.
Yeah, I totally relate, because I have a very similar story. So the end of November last year was my last day working in the disability sector for exactly the same reasons. And I was just not prepared to put my health on the line. And I was very clear and very open with my clients about that, the people that I was actually working with. And the office, I didn't care if they knew or not. In fact, I tried not to tell them, because it was just like, you guys don't deserve to know. But they just got nastier and nastier. And I was just like, do you know what? No, I'm not. I just, no, it's not going to happen. And so I resigned. And it was one of the best choices I've ever made. You know, every day, it's like, we're in August now. And so it's like 8 months ago, like, I've been supporting myself for 8 months. And I'm just like, this is incredible. Like, I'm so amazed. And yet I'm still going, how? But yes, cool. It's like, because over here I can't get benefits or anything. So for me, I'm unable to access what you guys call WINS benefits or anything. So I have to do it for myself. And I don't have family here. I don't have, you know, that level of support or anything that some people do. So yeah, it's for me, it's been a really big challenge, and it's been fun. And you know, my business itself, my spiritual business has grown exponentially, and I've also now getting to talk with incredible people like yourself on a weekly basis, and that's really bloody exciting too, because we're spreading the message out there even further, you know, which to me is one of our main purposes here. I was listening to a book called The Practicing Stoic, and it is a book that brings the knowledge and the teachings of various philosophers and theologians from ancient Greek and Roman times mostly. And it brings in a sort of a little bit more, not chronological, but like thematic conversations from each of them into like chapters. And one of the things they said in there today in the chapter that was actually on death, and they said that, and this came from Marcus Aurelius, and he said that we don't come to this life because we chose it. We came because the world needed us. And I'm like, whoa. Wow. When you wrap your head around that, it's like, okay, so there is a purpose for me being here. Now it's up to me to figure out what the heck that is.
Well, I think maybe you have, particularly in the last 8 months.
Yeah, definitely. And all the years before that. But it was just like, just that little piece there of, for everybody who is listening to this right now and into the future, when you think, I don't know why I'm here, or I didn't choose to be here. No, you didn't. The planet did. The planet requires you to be here right now. So what is it that you're going to contribute? What are you contributing to this planet? What are you contributing to our society? And is that what is required? So everybody has a purpose because you're here. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. So I love listening to audiobooks. What sort of audiobooks are you listening to at the moment?
I've listened to a lot of a lady called Florence Scovel-Shinn. And have you heard of her?
Tell me more.
So she's from like early 1900s. And so she's all about your words create your reality, like before Neville Goddard and a whole lot of other people. And there's a lot of stories in there around how she advised people on what words to speak when they needed to change things that were going on in their life, and how she would coach them and coax them to stay in anticipation of what the energy of those words will bring, so that they wouldn't go backwards in their energy. So I've got 4 of her books on audio, so I often listen to a lot of those. I've got a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've got a whole lot of them. And then I also listen to a lot of things on YouTube, there's a guy called Infinite Waters. He speaks on current matters and 3D versus 5D. So yeah, I've got a little variety that I flick between.
What sort of things do you listen to or watch to just chill out when you're not upskilling?
I don't have a TV. I haven't had a TV for 10 years. Yeah. And like I do sometimes watch the occasional movie on my laptop, but not very often. I kind of will often play music. Like I've got a celebration party playlist that I will play probably almost daily, and have my own little dance party and sing along session. So,
Love it so
yeah.
much. What I love in the summertime especially is like when it's a little bit warmer, is I love being able to like jump out of the shower with the music's on and just do a little dance as I'm moving up. Good old naked dance up the house.
Yeah. I do have the music on when I'm in the shower, so I can hear it when I'm in the shower.
Yeah, that's the best, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And for me also, like that plays another part in the spiritual process, because of course water is one of the ways that we connect really wonderfully with, the spiritual realm, with the earth. We bring it all in together, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I love those moments of being able to have all of those elements coming in together.
Yeah, it's magic when it all comes together, for sure.
And the awarenesses and things that you get. And I wonder if that's why we get more awarenesses while we're sitting on the bathroom toilet.
Or in the shower, always in those places, right?
Where we can't necessarily write anything down. Like, oh. Oh dear. So yes, it is fun. It's fun having those moments of being able to like have those awarenesses. But again, I think the toilet is one of those spots because our bottom is so close to the toilet water.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, so we've still got that connection happening. And also if we're actively peeing, then we've got that immediate connection.
I never thought about it like that, but it'll never be the same again.
I'm going to go have a spiritual moment. Bye. Who knew? Oh, the stuff that comes out of my mouth sometimes.
Oh, laughter is great. Laughter is brilliant.
So, what is the aim of your spiritual business these days? So, we've spoken a little bit about it. So, what is the aim of it?
So, the aim of my business is really to empower that sort of trust in yourself so that you will always know what is true for you and what isn't for you. But you're only going to know that if you're truly connected into your whole self. So by that, I mean like your soul, your spirit. And oftentimes, and I know this is true from my experience, when you're busy working like the corporate job, you're so caught up in the doing that you don't often have a lot of those moments to connect back in and consider what it is that you're doing. And so when you can connect back into your soul, that's when you're going to find out what is truly true for you. And I guess the thing, like for me, with what I've seen in the world in the last 2 years, and a lot of us have noticed it, is how easy it's been for a lot of people to just automatically accept something and not research something and just go along with something. And yeah. And then there's the other side of it too, like I guess where you don't look at it from the whole world issue perspective. It could be as simple of having red flags when you're about to start a new relationship, but you ignore them and go into the relationship. So if you can get into that whole space of being fully connected into your soul and your spirit, that's that side of you that's infinite and is connected into everything and knows everything, you'll totally be able to trust yourself and be able to navigate whatever life throws at you. And I think that's really important right now, because with what's happened in the world over the last 2 years, there's a lot of people that are feeling, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I can do. My life is completely different now because of what's happened. I didn't plan this. Can I do what I want? And so if they can connect in to trusting themselves, they'll be able to move forward while this is carrying out in the world. And that's my biggest why, is because I'd love to see people connecting into themselves and doing what they love rather than doing what they think they have to do to get by.
So resonates.
Oh, just to take a big breath after that.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I know that beautiful beings like you and me and the other incredible people that I have on this show and people I'm connected to in general, we are all very keenly aware of how each of our different skills and talents and inspiring and empowering others is exactly what's required right now. Because there are a lot of people at the moment sort of waking up and are feeling very disillusioned and are like that their little blinkers are coming off and they're like, oh, whoa, okay, now what do I do? And so they really do require the support of beautiful beings like us who have already been through this process many times over. And because we're out there doing it, you know, and it's like the beautiful Kate Moody that I had on last week. And her and I were talking about how, you know, when we were in our 20s and that, and we were sort of starting to get some, like you were talking about with the red flags and things popping up. If we'd had people like us back then being able to, you know, inspire us, to guide us, to, you know, then perhaps things may have been a little bit easier.
Oh, definitely.
But now we get to do that for the people around us. And that's a beautiful thing, you know. And I think that's why we are here. You know, we've had to travel those hard roads. We've had to travel those traumatic times and those, you know, for me, those nasty relationships or, you know, those challenging relationships so that then I've done the healing. And so then I've got the tools there to be able to assist other people and to inspire other people. And I'm sure you have a similar journey story too. Hi, Angelita. Lovely to see you. She's all the way from America.
Oh, wow. Hey.
Love it, love it, love it. So, talking about our 20-year-old self, what would you say to someone who's maybe just beginning their spiritual journey, like what we were just saying, what we were just talking about there? Like, what would be your sort of top tips of how to support themselves best in this time of transition?
Yeah, if you're just starting your spiritual journey, I would totally recommend that you get as much support as you can with others in the spiritual space, because I know when I had my big aha like 10 years ago, because it happened so fast, I was like, am I going crazy? Like, what? And so you need to have people that you can connect in that are at the same place that you are on your spiritual journey, because then you're not going to feel like you're alone. You're not starting off where you are alone. And you'll also want to be connected into people that have been on their spiritual journey for longer, because when things come up for you, they're going to be the ones who can pass over some wisdom to you. So super, super important. I know I did that. I was lucky enough to connect into a shaman. When I had things coming up, I was ringing her, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? So really important to make sure you've got support with others who are on the spiritual journey as well, because you don't want to get caught up in that trap of, you know, I had people saying to me, you're crazy. I can't tell people what's going on with you because they'll absolutely think you need to, you know, get some sort of medical treatment. And I was like, I'm just becoming aware of things that you cannot see. So definitely get support.
I totally agree. It's like that, those first few moments of, you know, diving into law of attraction and I'd had like ghost journeys and stuff like that before then. But I didn't really think too much of it. But my time with Law of Attraction, and I remember one of the moments which I now can see why it's there, but at the time I couldn't. It was like they were talking about gratitude and the importance of gratitude. And I was like, what purpose does this serve? I don't get it. Why do I have to say that I'm grateful for 5 things every day? Like, I'm just living life, man. I'm trying to be happy. And of course, now I really comprehend the reasoning of gratitude and the way that you say gratitude and acknowledge those moments. Because what do you know, if you acknowledge the gratitude moments, the moments of being grateful, then it increases that energy in your world. And if you do that just before you go to bed, what do you know, overnight it gets like explodes overnight, and then you have more yummy energies while you're percolating in your gratitude overnight. And it's like, okay, I get it. But back then, which would have been, let me see, probably about 15 years ago, I didn't get it. Totally didn't get it. But in those times, I didn't really get the whole thing of, when Ina Segal talks about divine healing intelligence, I thought in my little head, because I didn't read her introduction either, I just went to the part of the book that was relevant to me. I thought that was like talking about creator or God or something like that. I had no idea that divine healing intelligence is actually me. It's the higher part, that's the being, it's my soul, it's the everything that I am. I'm talking to that. It's like, again, didn't figure that out for years.
Yeah, similar, very similar with that, and similar with the gratitude as well. But I can remember, probably when I was 17, 18, 19, someone suggested to me then start writing a gratitude jar. And I remember having this notebook, and I would be like, what do I write down? Like, it was just so hard, like you say. And now I still have a gratitude jar. It's actually on my bedside table, and when I go to bed at night time, it's like, let me see, how many things have I got? And it's actually to the point now that when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I need to jot this down, and I'm like, I need more space. So it's lovely to see how we grow.
It is. It truly, truly is. So I do love this yummy, yummy question of, if you could sit next to any person on a park bench for the afternoon, who would it be and why? Hi, Christian.
That would be my Nana. She's absolutely adorable. She passed about 4 years ago, and she's amazing, like particularly I've thought about her a lot over the last couple of years of what's happened in the world with lockdowns and things, because she is Polish, and when she was under 5, the German soldiers came to the family home and took them all away to a concentration camp, and for World War II, and her parents and her brother did not survive, but her and her 3 sisters did. And so they came to New Zealand as orphan children. And that's how I'm in New Zealand now. And she told me a lot of her story when I was a very young girl. And I was probably too young to be told, because I had nightmares for a long time. However, I was a lot older than what she was when she experienced it. So when I think about it like that, that just totally blows my mind. And yet she was the most kindest, generous Nana anyone could ever want. Like, if I didn't think about what she told me, I would not have known. And I just love how she was able to go through something that's so terribly difficult and yet be such a kind, loving person. And when she was passing, like she was in a hospice, and she had so many people coming to see her, like her room was overfilling. And she was like, I'm apologizing to the nurses. Sorry, all my people are making too much noise. So she was still like the life of the party to the end. And so I love how she sort of just embraced that, despite the hard times, we're here for a good time. So, yeah, I'd love to spend more time with her.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially now. I think even just that 4 years on, just thinking about all the questions you would maybe ask her now that you didn't think of before, and really having that appreciation for her wisdom,
Yeah. And, when I think about her, and I was like, wow, I'm actually so grateful that I had opened up to my spiritual journey, because when she was passing, and in the last few days she was going backwards and forwards, and she would come back and tell me like, I've just had my life review and I need to apologize to you about this thing that happened when you were 13. They told me what happened, but I didn't know that at the time, and things like that. So that was incredible. And she's telling me like they're having this party for me and they're planning it for me, and it's in this house, and she's detailing this house. And so it was absolutely wonderful to have that conversation with her and to honor her having that, because others were saying, don't listen to her, it's all the meds, she's not quite right. So I totally am, when it all comes together and I could have those beautiful moments, it was just wonderful.
I totally relate. Like it's about a year and a half before my granddad passed away, and him and I had a very deep connection. And I got to spend 10 days with him, and it was just so beautiful. He had Alzheimer's, and he was certainly well on his way, but there was, even before that, there was just moments where he was telling me stories, and I was just like, thank you, because he was never very big on telling stories beforehand. As I was growing up, he wasn't really big on telling the stories, especially of his young days and all of that. And it was like suddenly they were all just pouring out of him. And so I got to spend 10 days with him, just pouring his childhood and his teenage years and his 20s out to me. And I was just like, wow, I sort of wish at the time I'd thought to write them down at night. But at the time, it was just so beautiful to have him trusting me and sharing with me all of these different moments in his life. And, the bigger ones stood out, the ones he told me like 15 times. They still stuck. But even to this day, like, because he was a joiner by trade, and I was working in the House of Renos, and there was a issue that came up with some joinery, and I was like, I don't know how to fix this. And I just went, Granddad, please, I require your assistance now. What can I do here? What is the best way forward? Because I can't rebuild this window. Like, how can I do this? And he, all of a sudden, this divine inspirational thought came through, and I was just like, thank you, Granddad. He's still a part of my spirit team regardless. And even back many, many, many years ago, before I was particularly aware of anything, what my partner at the time said to me, it was before he went in for his triple heart bypass, and not my partner, my granddad.
Okay.
Let's get that straight. And I was really, it was breaking my heart. And I was waking up crying because I was having dreams about him dying. And which technically I guess he was going to die on the table for a little bit, because, when you have the triple heart bypass, they've literally got to shut the heart down, stop it, so that they can do all their stitching and stuff. And he said to me, you don't have to worry. He's going to be with you even if he does die. He's always going to be around you. And I was like, yeah, I felt the truth in that at the time, even though that was a long, long time before I even really headed into my spiritual journey. But it is true. He's around me a lot, you know.
Yeah, and that is so cool. That is totally cool.
It's like, I don't know what it is. Perhaps we've got these little funny soul contracts with each other, you know, like your grandmother with you, you know. Do you ever find yourself smelling or like knowing when she's around?
Well, my dad is actually passed as well, so her son, and I actually smell him around a lot. Because he used to smoke, so I smell the cigarette smoke. So I'm like, okay. And I do sometimes get my nana used to wear like subtle perfume, so I do sometimes get a whiff of the subtle perfume as well. But yeah, I definitely do get the smells for when different people are around.
So beautiful. Yeah. My granddad, he being somebody who worked with tools and stuff, there'll be random times that I'll smell WD-40. Or linseed oil is another one. He'll waft that past me every now and then just to let me know. But he's certainly one for dropping feathers in my way.
Yeah.
He was beautiful, beautiful man. And it sounds like your grandma was the same, you know, just beautiful people. And it's such an inspiration for us to go, you know, even though they had, like for your grandma especially, had such a traumatic childhood, how that doesn't have to dictate, or you don't have to pass that energy on. You can look at that and heal that and then do the opposite, you know. I think that's a beautiful inspiration for many, because I know so many people, they use their trauma as an excuse for being not great to others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the angry, resentful. Yeah, so it's such a beautiful thing when you can, like you say, not allow it to make you unhappy and angry, and that you can still see the beauty in life. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I like that too. Thank you, Grandma. I love it. I love it. It's like, it's right up there with my park bench. Well, one of my park bench people, besides my granddad, because that's an obvious choice, is actually Nelson Mandela. For those same reasons, because he spent all that time in prison and yet came out of there not resenting a single prison guard.
Yeah, you know? That's incredible. I read that book when I was 13 and I was like, wow, how do you do that? Like, it was just so beyond me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, totally incredible.
Yeah, it's just that he's certainly been one of my inspirations of going, no, I choose to be happy. You know?
Yeah. And his book was called Freedom, if I remember correctly, the front of the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
True freedom, that is.
Yes, freedom of the heart. It's one of the things that happens in my healing sessions, like with my clients, is there's a process that I do where we do like using the theta healing techniques, and then we'll do a process where there'll be a moment there where I give them a period of time to express all of the negative like emotions that they've ever held with that particular person. But things that they've never expressed out loud. They've maybe said to other people, but never to that person directly. And then after all of that, it's like, and for all of that, I now forgive you. And there's some people that find that really challenging because they think that that means that they're condoning the other person's behavior or their actions or whatever. It's like, no, it's not that at all. It's actually about freeing yourself.
I know those techniques as well because I'm trained in theatre, and similar story. I had a client we were doing a lot of forgiveness work on, and the next day after the session, she rang me up. She says, "You're not going to believe this, but my ex-husband just deposited like I think it was 5 figures into her bank account as a goodwill gesture for, you know, not arguing about how they were separating about things."
Wow.
And so it's so powerful when you do that work. So powerful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And if Carly's still watching, hi, Carly. We were just so in depth in our conversation. I was just like, wow. So, so I'd like to just ask you a quick question from your experience of, you know, seeing behind the veils and all of that sort of stuff in the financial sector. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to have a chat with you today anyway, was, you know, there's been a lot of talk, I guess you could say, around that there might be like a stock market crash or that sort of thing. So I'd like to know, what is your perspective on that? Because I did a reading on Friday about it, actually on my Find You Friday show, and I'll say what that came out with, but I'd like to know your perspective first.
Okay, so I'll come at it from my background first. So last year, I think it was about February 2021. So as a chartered accountant, you get I don't know if it might be quarterly magazine, professional magazine. And when my February 2021 arrived, on the front cover of it, it said, "The Great Reset, How Chartered Accountants Can Help Create a Better Future." Well, I was livid when I got that magazine. Like, I didn't even take the plastic off it because I was disgusted, and I didn't want to read it. And I think it took me probably about 5 days or something like that before I took the plastic off and read the article about it. And so I probably read it around about Easter last year. And in New Zealand at the same time, there was a radio show who was questioning our finance minister around, is there going to be a great reset? No. But yet, in my chartered accountancy magazine, and also with my affiliation with the organisation, received an email and an invitation to an invite-only event where he's speaking about COVID and the Great Reset. Would you believe, yet denying it publicly? And at the same time, I get an invite to attend this event, which I did. And he's talking about his policies for 2022, and it's all about COVID. And I'm like, now, why would he be planning this to be all about COVID? Like, what's really going on here? And by then, I'd become aware that a lot of the structures in our system are not what we think they are. And, I'd started to make some choices. Like, I was working as an employee then, and I actually stopped paying into KiwiSaver because I was like, you get your employer contributions, but they're only good if you're actually going to get your KiwiSaver back. And I don't actually trust the government right now. I don't think I'm going to get my money back, and I also don't think I'm going to get my employer's money back. So I'll actually have more money if I don't put money in. And I know at my last role, I was the only one who wasn't in, and my CFO was like, "You're the only one in the team that's not doing KiwiSaver. Why not?" I was like, "I don't believe in it." So warning bell started going, and I've had conversations with friends of mine who work for a bank in New Zealand, and I have been told that and we probably know this already, that everything for the currency reset is in place, the back end systems in place. It's all connected up to, I don't know what the technologies are on your phone, Apple Pay, whatever it is on Android and all of that. So I have no doubt that this has all been planned for a very, very long time. And it's partly why I don't want to work as a chartered accountant anymore, because I don't want to feed the system. And, you can have natural market cycles. Like if you own property, it is a natural cycle in the financial world to have highs and lows of generally about every 10 years. So you've got to be in it for the long game. But my personal opinion is I don't believe that what's going on now is that. It's definitely more of a planned reset, and I don't feel that it's for the better of the general people. I feel it's for control and for the elite's benefit. So that's kind of my take on it, really.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
I'll probably never get a chartered accountancy job ever again if anybody listens to that. Hey, it's not where I'm going right now.
Exactly right. So I have spoken to somebody who is a financial advisor or financial coach is what they prefer to be called. And they were very much of, I guess, more in the 3D world rather than, where we're at. But they felt like, the stock market, it has its ebbs and flows. That's kind of what happens naturally. And for it to crash, it would mean that every single big business would have to crash. It would have to be no more. So all of the big business, like your Woolies and your Coles and, all of them would have to suddenly disappear. And he goes, quite frankly, I don't believe that would happen. And so it's like you said, this reset is for the elites, which is those owners of those big companies, So interestingly, when I did my reading for this last Friday, the sense that I got was that while there is a lot of talk around there being a big crash, it's just talk, and that there might be a slight little dip which will make people freak out and do crazy stuff, sell their stocks or whatever, but it's so that the big ones can come along and take them while they're lower and then push it back up again. So that's what was coming out in my reading last week, was it's not going to be as bad as what some are out there saying.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I think with what you were saying there, like I know in America, I think it was 2020 when, our first lockdowns, there was a lot of that happening when the businesses were shut down and not making money. They were up for sale and they were being bought. And there was a lady, and I can't remember her name now, and she did talk about it. But basically, it was almost like a perimeter around banks that the businesses were being shut down and bought up. And you could almost then replicate that pattern over any other town in America to predict what was happening. So that was very, very interesting. And I guess, even when there are, recessions, like if you think about the one that happened in 1929, the Great Depression, there's always winners, right? There's always, with that, it comes a whole new set of problems, if you like. And so you've got the opportunity to come up with a whole new set of solutions. So it just means a pivot to create something completely new. It's not all that doom and gloom, which can be so easy to get caught into if you own a house and you're watching your house values drop, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's always something else that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you go out and you get food and the cost of food is going up and up and up, and the price of fuel is going up, it's like it adds to the storyline, if you like, that, you know, these people are propagating. It's like, yeah, see, that price has gone up so much more. Everything's going to crash, and then you're not going to be able to pay for anything. So it's interesting. And like one of the things that came out in that reading that I did last week was around just being very mindful of what you're listening to and the stories that you're also contributing to. So it's like, for me, I'm a healthy skeptic. I like to research and I like to find out for myself, and I like to know what is true for me and what isn't true for me. You know, just like you were saying about your business and your aim of teaching people how to do that. That's one of the greatest things that I've learned over the last 7 years, is that skill of really knowing what's true for me, you know, regardless of what anybody else says.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So important. So important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to know, Debbie, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today? Any other little tidbits of juicy, tasty bits? Oh, what was your most tasty moment in your life so far?
Oh, what was my most tasty moment? So tasty just makes me think of food, right? And I guess if I'm going to go down that line of food, my most tasty experience would have been, I went to the Fat Duck restaurant, which is owned by a man called Heston Blumenthal. Have you heard of him?
I have.
So he does all these, I'm going to say, like Alice in Wonderland type dishes. And I had I think it may have been a 19 taster course. So we're not talking like huge meals. We're talking like little taster dishes of different things. And, you know, this is, I guess, an example of some of the Alice in Wonderland dishes that I had. Was one dish he put down, he had a square of orange looking jelly and a square of red looking jelly. So the flavors of the jelly was orange and beetroot. So when you have the orange colored jelly, it's actually got the taste of beetroot. And when you had the red looking jelly, it's got the taste of orange. So it completely blew your mind, because it's not the taste that you were prepared to have, because you have this ideas in your head of what you're about to eat. And every single thing that came out was like that. Like he'd had bacon and egg ice cream and lollies in plastic wrappers that were, well, they weren't plastic, they looked plastic, but they were edible. So it was just totally out of this world food experience, and tasty.
Oh, wow. Wow. If I recall rightly, he actually had a season on Netflix. There was a show on Netflix that he was a judge of, where it was one of those competition type shows where he would have a creation there, and then the competitors had to recreate it, and the best one, you know, would go through, and then that win, and blah blah blah. But yes, I'm aware of Heston, and it's just like some of the stuff he would come out is just absolutely incredible. So I can only imagine what it would be like to sit there and actually eat it. That would be just incredible.
Oh, it was amazing. Probably, yeah. I don't know if I'll have another dining experience like that again. I'd love to, because it was such
Was
an
that in New Zealand, or where were
this
you?
was in the UK. So I've lived in the UK for 10 years. So this was over there that I got to dine in his restaurant.
Wow. Wow. That's so cool. Where else have you traveled to?
Oh, I think my travel list is at maybe 35, 36, 37 countries. So I guess I did the typical Kiwi OE thing in my mid-20s. And so I've done all of Europe. I've done some of Asia and the Middle East. And I'm pretty sure I got to, about 37. So I need to.
Which ones are you missing?
What was that question?
Which ones are you missing?
I guess I've got two. Well, there's lots of memorable ones. I remember Petra in Jordan, and it's got this beautiful. It's actually where the trying to think what the movie is. Big cannons that you can walk through, and they've got the treasury, and it's all made of rock, and you used to be able to live in these rock caves, and people did up till about 20 years ago. Like, think of the Flintstones, kind of look like that. You'd see these rocks on the side, and they did kind of have carved in little windows and doors and things, so kind of really surreal. And you can walk through that valley, and at nighttime, like, it would take you about a good, I guess, half an hour to walk from the beginning all the way through. At nighttime, they would put candle lights all the way along, and so you could walk along the candle tea lights through it, and it was absolutely beautiful and magical. So I just really enjoyed that experience. It was just amazing, phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that does sound just right up my alley. I love lights, as you can see.
Yeah, you'd love it, sparkly and beautiful. Yeah. Totally.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And is there any country that's on your hit list that you haven't been to yet that you'd still like to go to?
I haven't been to Canada, and I would like to go to Canada because I've heard it's very similar to New Zealand. Would love to go to Canada. Where else? I'd like to go to the Maldives, actually. I would love to go to the Maldives.
Go there before they go underwater, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bit like the global reset, if you believe in that too.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, Venice is underwater quite often with the canals.
It's interesting times, very interesting times.
Indeed.
Yeah, Canada is my next one to go to. I've got a very dear friend over in Alberta, so I'm looking forward to heading over to go and see her and, travel around a little bit and see some more bits and pieces. But I think I'll go over in like the spring, maybe into the summer, but definitely the spring. Only not because it's going to be too hot. I'm used to the hot, but I definitely don't need to be there in the winter time now.
No, it's -20 there in winter, I believe.
And I've had a white Christmas. I don't require to have another white Christmas. And, I grew up near the base of Mount Ruapehu, Tongariro. So to me, I'm familiar with snow. I'm all good with that. I'd like to see it when it's green and beautiful and,
Yeah, lush.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, my love, how can people get in touch with you if they require to? Like, what sort of healing sessions and things do you do? Do you do them online? How are people able to connect with you if they sort of like your vibe?
Yeah, I have a Facebook group and a page, both called Soulutions. So think solutions, but spelt soul, S-O-U-L, Soulutions for happiness. So that'll be the place where you can find me. I actually work with a lot of my clients online and remotely now, which I was doing, possibly at the beginning of my journey, but it's definitely become more acceptable now to do the online and the remote sessions. So I guess that's one bonus of the last couple of years. And so I have my little Soulutions for happiness, and I actually do a lot of free meditations. I do weekly free meditation in my Facebook group, and I sometimes do a few other little things in there as well. But the weekly meditation is always on, and it's just wonderful to do that because I get such a buzz every time. I love going into that space and that theta space and doing meditations, and I love it when the ladies that are on there receiving the meditation are like, "Yay, that was awesome, thank you." So if you're looking for somewhere to go to have a bit of a chill and meditation, you can join up there. And I also have a 3-day course which I've done recently on how to access your limitless vitality and happiness. So I talk about different concepts each day, and so that the replays for that are available in the group as well. So if you're wanting some tips on how you can boost your vitality and happiness, that's available for you in that space too. So you can message me and we can get you connected up.
Beautiful. And in the show notes, it's all sort of in there. I think the only thing we're missing is maybe the group, the Facebook group, but we can add that back in there if you like. But that will be up on your Facebook page anyway, yeah?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, cool. Because I'm not in your group yet. And I'm desiring to be in your group. I feel like I'm missing out, man.
Where have you been?
So that's all right. We shall quickly remedy that one. Once the show's done, I'll be in there. Oh, wow. That sounds brilliant. So beautiful people. Thank you so much for coming and playing today. Thank you, Debbie, for being my first international guest. How did I get to be so lucky? Hello, Brooke. And I know that says volumes. I know. The thing is that I don't join in with everybody and everything. I'm very selective about where I put my energy. So the fact that I'm just like, why aren't I in that group? Hello. So yes, I agree, Brooke. Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate you too. And I look forward to next week. I have Tracy Hillier, who's going to be on the show next week. And we're going to be talking about some weird and wacky spiritual stories, I think. So that's going to be heaps of fun. And of course, I'm back on Friday for Find You Fridays for the reading show, where you can pop in. You can do a little pay what you wish donation, and I'll give you an extended reading for the show. Till then, be bold, be brave, be you, my beautiful friends. Debbie, did you wish to say anything before you leave?
Oh, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been wonderful to have this fun conversation with you, and it's been absolutely a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for choosing to be here and for staying up late for us, way past your little bitty boy's time. I'm incredibly grateful for you. Until next time, everybody, be out there, be tasty, and have an absolutely brilliant, brilliant day. Bye-bye.